so this is my wet palette. There are many like it, but this one is mine. For those of you that don't know, a wet palette is a very handy device for painting with acrylics, such as Vallejo, or AK Interactive, or any other acrylics that you get your hands on. Although, I don't know how it works with Tamiya, because I don't hand brush Tamiya, I airbrush it. So, that's something that you can try on your own, because I haven't. Okay, so what this is, what a wet palette is, not necessarily this one, but what a wet palette is a reservoir of water in a sponge underneath of a piece of paper that's semi-porous. Well, no. It is semi-porous, but it will hold up under being wet for long periods of time. It's not wax paper. This is Reynolds parchment paper. There it is. Reynolds is not a sponsor yet. So you could probably use the generic stuff, but I did actually try the generic stuff, and it didn't last as long. This will break down after, I don't know, maybe a month of being in there. No big deal. You just peel it out and replace it. But I mean, if you only have to do it a month versus every other week, that's fully better and worth the price of whatever this was, because that's enough parchment paper probably to last me the rest of my life. So what happens is, you put your paint on the wet palette that's on top of the watery sponge, and it keeps it moist for a long period of time. Reason A, you put the cover on here, you come back tomorrow, the same paint you were using yesterday, it's still wet. As you can see, this paint is still wet, and I put that on there probably a week ago. I've been using the same color for a project that I have to keep going back to. You know, I'll add parts, and then I'll have to paint some more parts because they'll be difficult to get to once I paint it. So I need to keep going back to that special mixture color, and what's handy is I just put the cover on it and it's ready for me next time. The next issue, or the next advantage, is some of that water from the pad seeps up through and actually dilutes the paint just a hair little bit, and it makes it more fluid and easier to roll off the brush smoothly. So that's my main one. These are the parts you need. This is made by Systema. It's one of those sandwich holders. Notice it's not very deep. That's important because when you're here painting, your hand's probably going to be on the table and you're going to get paint like this. You don't want it to be too high up, because then you got to like reach into it. You don't want to reach into it. Alright, so the next thing is this sponge here. And as you can see, it's about the thickness of the Systema bowl. This was cut with a Proxxon cutter, which I will superimpose a picture of that now with the magic of television. So this was cut with a Proxxon cutter. It's got a little bit of a taper to it. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. After some trial and error, you can get one to fit in there just nicely, and I like it so that it's all the way to the top. After that, you cut your parchment paper into a hunk that's smaller than the cavity you've got there, because I think this stretches some, you know, when it gets wet. And what happens is you come back and half of it's sticking out here, and you're not going to get a good seal with that like that, and it gets all wrinkly. And you want this to be absolutely flat on the sponge. So and this is before I get too much further, this is a template I made. That way I can just put that over top of the parchment paper and cut out, you know, a dozen of them or so at a time. I don't have to measure nothing. I've already got the template. What I'm going to do is put a link on, not a link, I'm going to put this pattern on my Facebook Sons of Plastic page. And I'll put a link down in the description below so that you can go there and get your own copy of this template if necessary. And while you're there, you can join the Sons of Plastic and see what we're up to over there. Okay. So that is that. So the operation, fill that up with water and then pour off the excess. Put your Reynolds paper on there and then cover it up. What's going to happen is that's going to curl up and it's not going to look good at all. You cover it up and I don't know, a couple minutes later it'll lay out flat and it'll be stuck like that. As you'll notice, some of these parts the water isn't touching. That's because we've lost a little bit of water through evaporation from use. So I'm going to top it off, and what I do is I run water in there until it's just about to come up over the sponge. I'm going to see a little bit of the sponge texture in the surface of the top surface of the water, and as you can see, that gets everything wet. So it doesn't matter where I put paint at, it's going to have water underneath of it. Okay, so that's that. So subscribe if you would like, and hit that notification button, and you will know when my next video comes out. Okay, thank you much.
Party.